Conservatives gathered in Sydney this week for the ARC conference, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, an initiative founded by former Australian Deputy Prime Minister and podcaster John Anderson, Jordan Peterson, and a woman from the UK named Philippa Shroud. She's a Baroness. They had the very first big ARC conference in London earlier this year, and they're having another one in February next year. But they had a little mini ARC in Sydney this week, ARC Australia. Lots of good content, wise words, great speakers. It was really good. And John Anderson made some very important points about the current state of our culture in Australia and the West, particularly the tendency of our educators in most of our schools and universities to give our kids a biased, one-sided view of history in which our Western European heritage is constantly painted as bad or oppressive.
I find it almost beyond comprehension that in our focus on the things that we've got wrong, in our willingness to give way to a narrative of declinism, of fault-finding, that we fail to properly recognise the shoulders upon which we really stand. It would be an appalling thing if our children were to say of us, who judged so many of those who have gone before us unfairly, that we were the ones that stole their heritage, that we removed their opportunities to live in a flourishing, free democracy of the sort that we enjoy. It would be, I think, an unforgivable pardon if our children and our grandchildren are forced to reflect that our best days as a young nation are behind us, not in front of us.
Yeah, very well said. Former Australian Deputy Prime Minister John Anderson speaking at the ARC conference in Sydney this week. The most important issue facing our nation right now is the massive size of government and the cost of it, leading to the appalling level of debt we are in as a nation. A point that was hammered home in a speech by Australia's longest-serving Treasurer, Peter Costello.
There is one institution that is getting bigger and commanding more resources than ever. It's government. In Australia, it has a local, a state and a national manifestation. And together, like a creeper, it is covering more area and consuming more resources than ever before in peacetime. It's been a very long time since any pruning was done.
Yeah, well, why would the government prune itself and make itself weaker? It never will unless we force it to. Australian government of all levels spend around $1 million a year. $1 trillion. Now, some of it they spend quite well on important stuff that's done efficiently, but a lot of it they do not. Because there's no competition as there is in the private economy, of the competition of the free market and business, where we've got to fight every day to deliver value for customers or we go broke. People who work for the government have a lot more leeway to make mistakes, sometimes very costly ones that end up wasting a lot of our nation's wealth. And government just keeps making itself bigger and more powerful. It has the power to, so why wouldn't it? A lot of our fellow Aussies don't seem to care. They keep voting for more of it. They generally think the government should take care of us and that it can or will. It can't and won't, by the way. It's run out of money. And it's borrowing at an alarming rate just to keep doing the stuff that it's already promised us it would do. This can't end well. And you can only keep taxing the rich bastards, as those geniuses in the Greens like to keep saying, for so long before all the money runs out. And it's already run out. Mr. Costello compared the increases in taxes that we're paying now as Aussies per head compared to what we used to pay back in the time that he was Treasurer 2 decades ago. Taking inflation into account and using what they call constant dollars so you get a proper comparison across the years, in 2008, the real tax per capita in Australia was $14,630. So just under $15,000 for every man, woman and child in this country. But today, Mr. Costello points out, it's just over $17,000, a rise of 16%.
And some of you are going to see this and you're going to say, $14,630. I'm paying a lot more than that. for which I apologise. But there's a lot of people that don't pay tax in Australia. Babies don't pay tax, children don't pay tax, the old don't pay tax, people under the tax-free threshold don't pay income tax.
Now, if you added in inflation, that number, of course, would be much higher, but there's no reason that that base number should be 16% higher today. In fact, it should be lower because there's more of us to share the government services provided and the cost of providing them. If it was a private business and you were a shareholder, you'd be saying, hang on, where are the efficiencies and economies of scale here? And this is just federal taxes that Mr. Costello is talking about. But it gets even worse. The amount the government is taking in tax for every man, woman and child is $17,000 a year, but they're spending $18,000 a year for every man, woman and child.
So payments have been increasing nearly 2% per annum over those last 16 years. And you're going to say to me, well, how does a government spend more than it raises? Well, a government spends more than it raises by borrowing the difference. People don't see it as their debt, it's not in their name, and if it's in the government's name, they think it's the government's problem. And part of today's tax goes to servicing yesterday's debts. Less of today's tax goes to today's services. Things begin to run down. Potholes appear in the roads, wait times lengthen at the hospitals. But a government can carry on for as long as its lenders keep lending it the money.
It's the great trick of the left. Just keep giving stuff away. Never mind what it costs. By the time the young people wake up to the fact that they are the ones who'll be paying for all this free stuff that they so love, they'll be old and we'll have new young people to fool to take their place.
When I hear politicians promising young people all kinds of new spending to help them on their way, they rarely mention that the cost will be paid by those young people through taxes and borrowings over their lifetime. And the costs will be higher than ever. I could do a similar analysis for the UK, I could do it for the US. In fact, they're in worse positions than us because they didn't start from as strong a position in 2008. Now, modesty prevents me from saying why we were so strong in 2008, but do you think you're getting a good return on all of that extra spending? On average? Do you think people are better off than they were in 2008? On average, do you think they're 27% better off? Has the jump in spending made us a stronger society than we were 20 years ago? What I can't understand is why governments that fail in core responsibilities should be allowed to expand their reach. Do they need new areas to fail in? The most incompetent government in Australia comes to mind. After failing every test of prudent budget management and infrastructure, the Victorian government decided it would embark on treaty negotiation with Indigenous people and join China's Belt and Road program. These are federal issues. Nothing other than rank posturing and media diversion could come of it. My view in government was we should stick to what we were there for and do it well rather than find new areas to fail in.
Peter Costello, Australia's longest serving treasurer, speaking some truths at the ARC conference in Sydney this week. Here at the other side, we do not get more than $1 billion of taxpayer money like the ABC does to waste on fun stuff that we and our friends like while ignoring the public that we're supposed to serve. We have to rely on your support of this show. But I also hate asking for charity. So we've done a deal with what I think is the best VPN service in the world so that you can support this show and get excellent value for yourself in return. Private Internet Access VPN is a virtual private network. You download their app onto your phone, your TV, your computer, whatever you use, and it'll route all your data through a different server location so that you can't be tracked by the prying eyes of big government and big corporations. It keeps you and your family truly safe, and it will not massively slow down your internet speeds or make it harder to use your devices like some VPNs do. Private Internet Access, PIA VPN, is quick and easy to install, and once you've downloaded it, that's pretty much it. You can sign up using our special Other Side code for less than $3 a month. Unbelievable. That is a whopping 83% off the normal price. And you'll get the first 4 months free, and you will be helping our show a lot. So get onto it. piavpn.com/otherside to get the special deal. And get this, if you've got a Netflix account, by signing on through a server in another country to Netflix, like the US, for example, you'll get access to that country's library of Netflix shows on your account as if you were in that country, which is also great if you want Netflix in a different language or something. piavpn.com/otherside. If you like that clip, there's more where that came from in our full show, The Other Side. You can watch it right here, the latest episode. And please subscribe to our channel by pressing the subscribe button right here or down here. And remember to click that notification bell too. It all helps. Join us and become part of The Other Side.